Bad games, they're everywhere. And you know what? It sort of feels like we're getting more of them every year. That's a different topic though. Today, we're doing some thinking. It's time to ponder, perhaps come up with a theory. What is the worst game ever made? Now you might think that's straightforward. Sonic 06, Bubsy 3D, I don't know, Shaq Fu, perhaps a FNAF game. Any FNAF game. Pick a FNAF game.
Fuck you, Chica! Oh shit, it's Dick up in you, baby!
What happened to you?
Oh my god.
The problem is when you say this is the worst game ever, it's pretty subjective. So no, I can't just tell you which games I think are the worst. That's just called ranting. I want to figure out as objectively as possible what is the worst game. And there's a few ways to do that using hard metrics. Hard metrics. Was that funny? Did you laugh? Stick around, because I think you'll be surprised to find out what the worst game actually is. First, we're gonna take a look at critics. Metacritic is a site that combines and averages reviews from critics for pretty much any notable game ever. So basically, a critic gives a game a 9 out of 10, another critic gives it a 10 out of 10. Metacritic says critics give this game a 9.5 out of 10. I probably didn't need to explain Metacritic or basic math to anybody watching, but in case there's any goblins in the audience, you know, welcome. I hope you're feeling. Finding the worst reviewed game on Metacritic should be pretty easy. Just view all games, sort by Metacritic score, and go to the last page. Let's see, the worst game, according to critics, is Family Party, 30 Great Games Obstacle Arcade for the Wii U. I mean, all right. So it looks like this game is just a heinously shitty version of Wii Sports. Critics hated it, players hated it, and to be honest, I think calling a family party game the worst game is sort of like calling a game show the worst TV series. It doesn't count. So what's the next worst game, according to critics? Yaris. What is Yaris? I'll tell you what Yaris is. It was a free-to-download Xbox arcade title developed by Toyota. For their Toyota Yaris range of cars. Yeah, this shit is quite literally an ad, and like a really, really bad one too. It was taken off the Xbox Live Marketplace a year in due to Xbox's licensing deal with Toyota expiring. Looking at gameplay of this, yeah, it looks unplayable. The graphics are unbelievably bad, and look, I will never judge a game based on its graphics, except Yaris. I mean, fucking look at this thing. You know that Mr. Beast video where he cures blindness or whatever? I think a good experiment would be to sit those fuckers down in front of this game and see how long it takes for that blindness to kick back in. Look, like the last game, there's not a lot I can say here. This thing is the worst advertisement ever made, but calling it the worst game would be like calling an infomercial the worst movie ever made. It doesn't count. So on we go through the list to find Vroom in the Sky and the remake of Double Dragon 2. Both games considered to be a 17 out of 100 by critics. First, Vroom in the Sky, an unfinished Switch game that I guess was rushed to the market to be one of the Nintendo Switch's launch titles. This game is nothing. Looking at it, it is quite literally an empty box for you to fly around in. Then, Double Dragon 2, which, yeah, this game starts with a raid by the Black. Actually, what else did I see on this page? I could have sworn I saw a Deal or No Deal for the Nintendo DS. It's sitting at a nice 20 out of 100. This game is complete ass water. Howie Mandel, you sly dog. I'm actually most disappointed that this game didn't feature a prolapsed anus at any point. If you don't get the joke, Howie Mandel featured a prolapsed anus on his TikTok. Okay, look, based on what we just found, Vroom in the Sky is technically the worst game of all time, according to critics. Oops, I lied. That was a lie. Metacritic lied, those disgusting fucking freaks. This script is really mean. So yeah, this is the last page on Metacritic, but somehow there's actually a game with an 8 out of 100 score on the website. 3 points worse than what is it called again? Then Family Party Obstacle Fuck me, what is this title? Family Party 30 Great Games Obstacle Arcade. It is Big Rigs Over-the-Road Racing. You might have heard of this game before. It's been covered by multiple huge YouTubers. It's sort of like the Room of video games. If you don't know, there's no collision, you can't lose, the game crashes when selecting certain tracks, and if you drive in reverse, you infinitely accelerate like a Romanian running towards the wallet you just dropped. Yeah, this game is hilariously bad, and if you want to see more about it, you should check out Critical's video on it. Am I plugging a YouTuber with millions of subs? You know what, I take it back. Watch my video on it again. I'm running out of time, so I gotta move on. I have a sex appointment in like an hour, so. What about everybody's favorite man-child degenerates? Video game journalists. So, how did I quantify this? These game journalists have nothing to write about. Honestly, I don't know how they're employed. All they do is suck at games and write articles that read like they were written by ChatGPT. Anyway, due to this lack of skill and creativity, game journalists like to default to top 10 lists, where they'll make a video like fucking top 10 feet in video games. Hey guys, and welcome to Gamerspot Radar Zone. I'm Painus Deek Kumstain, and I have nothing useful to contribute to this industry. Let's get started. Number 10. Come. I've already made that joke, but you haven't seen that video, so I'm recycling content. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is there's a million top 10 lists about nothing, so you already know. There's a million top 10 lists about the worst video games of all time, probably a million being made daily. What I did was compile the results from a multitude of these lists and see which game most commonly appears as the worst game ever made. And the results are in. The worst game of all time, according to game journalists, is E.T. for the
Atari 2600. Kind
of a generic choice, I guess. So I took the top 3 worst games from 15 different articles, and these were the results. E.T., Superman 64, and Big Rigs appeared in almost every top 3, with E.T. and Superman 64 both making 10 appearances, and Big Rigs making 9. The actual weighting of it is interesting too. E.T. was crowned the #1 worst game of all time on 6 different lists. Big Rigs and Superman 64 only got that title 3 times each. Then, Superman 64 was called the 2nd worst game on 5 lists, and Big Rigs got it on 2. So, according to game journalists, the top 3 worst games are Big Rigs, Superman 64, and by far the worst, E.T. E.T. is a really shitty game, I get that, but I'm trying to make content here, and there's not a lot I can really say about this game. You play as an alien, made up of like 15 pixels. You fall into holes and start throwing that net to fly out of them. The reason this game is such a well-known meme is because when it released, it was such a disastrous failure that hundreds of thousands of copies were buried in the New Mexico desert. And to be honest, we should carry on the tradition and bury the video game journalists as well. Half of them are just reciting the worst rated games on Metacritic. The other half are just copying old AVGN opinions. I mean, yeah, I'm compiling Metacritic scores, but at least when I did it, I added funny gifs of black men twerking. These lists are just nothing. Outside of these top 3 though, what I'm more curious about is the random ass games that they seem to have just thrown in that only appear on some of the lists, like Elf Bowling 1 and 2 and Ethnic Cleansing? Ethnic Cleansing, that's a real game. Can I even say those words on YouTube? Hang on, what? I got the Wikipedia Let me read this for you. Ethnic Cleansing is a 2002 FPS produced by the National Alliance An American white supremacy and neo-Nazi organization? Apparently a dude called Marcus Bryan described it as the most sophisticated racist game available online, which is a pretty outdated take considering Counter-Strike is basically a KKK meeting hub.
Oh, you gypsy? Okay, now I'm understanding.
Yo, Gypsy, keep silence.
Why toxic, bro?
I'm not toxic. I'm just talking facts.
This game is real. Oh, look, anyway. So for the video game journalists, we've got E.T. So lastly, what is the worst game according to you, the actual consumers? Steam reviews. I can't think of a more reliable place to source the average gamer opinion than Steam. Everybody uses Steam. Console players use Steam. Jesus himself has a Steam account with 100,000 hours in Necopower. So we've got two ways to look at it. The game with the highest number of negative reviews, or the game with the highest percentage of negative reviews. And hey, I got you. The game with the highest number of negative reviews on Steam is Overwatch 2, with 200,000 negative reviews. However, 16% of Overwatch 2 reviews are positive. Okay, an addendum, all right? It used to be 16%. Since 2Mad died, it has actually shot up to 17% positive reviews. Wow. In terms of percentage, the worst is a game called War of the Three Kingdoms. 12% of players reviewed this game positively. Interestingly, the two worst games on Steam are both free-to-play games, and they only exist for porn. Yeah, War of the Three Kingdoms is a sex game, and Overwatch was literally created to bring 3D hentai into the modern age. Okay, so this is the part that I find incredibly interesting. The worst games, according to critics, people whose job it is to play games, are games that are definitely poorly made, garbage games. These critics are not putting that many hours into many games. They just can't. They have to move on to the next game to, I guess, keep their jobs. And the user reviews for these critical failures are usually pretty positive. To the actual gamer, the actual consumer, they wouldn't even bother with a game like Big Rigs. None of them have played E.T. The games that they actually hate are the games they care about. The games with the most complaints from consumers tend to be gigantic free-to-play games with huge player bases. Games that they've put hundreds of hours into and they understand intimately. I don't know if intimately is the right word, but it is for Overwatch. The average person just moves on from a game that plays like shit. Never thinks about it again. They only care enough to chastise a game if it has predatory DLC, unfulfilled promises, invasive monetization of a game that they actually care about. Anybody can agree that from an actual game perspective, obviously, Big Rigs is way worse than Overwatch 2. But the definition of worst is different to a critic than it is to a gamer. Gamer. I hate saying that word. What is the worst game ever made? Is it the game that is actually unbearable to play? Or is it the game that you desperately want to play? The game that's actually fun, but it comes with disgusting predatory practices by the developers. Games that actually suck, or games that make your life suck. So, what is the worst game ever made? It's ethnic cleansing, bro. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, the game makes you shoot black people, and when you do, it plays monkey noises. Holy shit, how is this a real product that sold 2,000 copies? With 90% of customers being white teenage boys. Fuck me. I guess we figured out who was in those Modern Warfare 2 lobbies. Okay, so that was it. The worst game or games of all time. Big Rigs for the critics, E.T. for the journalists, and Overwatch 2 for the consumers. I tried to make it as objective as possible, so I hope you found it interesting. Listen to me, it's urgent. More videos, all right? And subscribe, you'll like it. I'm trying to hit 2K subs, that would be very cool. I would enjoy that a lot. See ya.